So let's see. We should have some excitement brewing on the horizon, I reckon. Oh, I should probably get the bears collecting our new bounty, not leave it to rot in the rain. There is a decomposition mechanic in RimWorld, so... Oh, so a mod pack for Satisfactory or for Factorio? Or for Minecraft. Sorry, I may be late to the party here. We may be talking about Minecraft because the ones that I was most familiar with is like, oh, okay, so yeah, like, what were the ones that? Yeah, there were a lot of logistics mods early on. Later in my playing, things like Ender.io was very dominant. Then there were the requester pipes from. I'm blanking now on the particular mods, but yeah, the Minecraft modding scene has birthed so many of those types of things, and they are so fun. I would love to do a modded Minecraft series. I have a lot of Minecraft on the channel. I started playing a vanilla game, and I just got well, there's our first raid of the what hold on a second. I need to. They will prepare for a while and then attack. Got it. Okay. Right now they look like they're just coming this way. Alright, this is a decently large group. This group, these all have sniper rifles. These all have sniper rifles. Okay, we're going to have a lot of sniper rifles. And that's a pretty low risk to us. We may run into a situation where people are starting to get tired, though. That would be the one concern. I am definitely interested in mechanics, so I'm all ears, joke. Yeah, this is not a particularly scary contingent here. We just, I think about now, it's probably time. So I'm currently enlisting my my troops to get them up here. I'm gonna take, ooh, Amboss is, Tony, do you have a shield belt? Yeah, you do. Alright, they're beginning their assault, which is great. I just want to keep these two out of the line of fire. But they're going to filter in. Ooh, female psychic soothe is great. Now, I don't think we need to, but just to be on the safe side, I'm gonna let some come in and then we'll Ooh, Neoverse. Okay. So, here comes the crew, and then what I'm going to do is once we get a few inside, I'm going to use a Berserk Pulse to make sure that they don't... maybe I don't even need to. Yeah. So this is what we call a kill box. Named for no particular reason. It's a mystery why we might call it a kill box. I think this one's going to mostly deal with itself, so I'm going to write down Neoverse. Now, when you said if I'm interested in mechanics, what type of mechanics were you referring to? Like, who just got malaria? Mugs just got malaria. That's a beautiful thing. Bebor is going to be just fine. She's nice and tough. Are you saying, like, interesting game mechanics or specifically, like, mechanical mechanics? That's not a great way to ask that question, I realize, but... All right. Raid is over. Sandra was down. Let's see if Sandra's at all interesting. Trigger happy jealous psychopath. No thank you. Please expand upon your mechanical mechanics. Mechanical mechanic. Let's see how much Valentin got in terms of happiness. Killed 4, so we can have Valentin come and do some work and have Bibor finish off Sandra, and everybody else can kind of... So right now, Valentin is a bloodlust pawn, which means that Valentin gets a great deal of enjoyment out of the murder of others, which doesn't necessarily make Valentin a nice person, but we do like to do him the favor of giving him a few extra murders when the opportunity arises. Fast learning psychopath nudist. No, thank you again. Uh-oh, Junior. I don't think you're going to make it. No amount of optimism was going to save Junior there, unfortunately. And then, as I was saying before, the beauty of this setup is the bears do all the corpse cleanup and potentially eat some of the corpses too. So they're going to do all the work. But yes, so the question I was asking about mechanical mechanics, was just... We had been talking about Oxygen Not Included, which is a game that I would consider to be a very mechanical game, in the same way that, or mechanics-driven game, in the same way that that Minecraft modded with, say, like logistics mods and logistics fulfillment and those sorts of things is a very mechanically driven modded game. Oh, okay. Yeah. So I'm very interested in games that have interesting and novel mechanics for sure. Like that's a sweet spot for me, to be sure. Now, let's see. Of all of these guys, all these raiders, I don't think any of them even had no good armor. No nothing. So You can see, you potentially just saw that. It was very quick, but Kenta had a bad thought. It's missing at the moment. But Kenta had a bad thought, or a bad moodlet. Yeah, actually, that's where we would see it. We would see it in needs. Yeah, so observed corpse -7. So Kenta's mood is slightly depressed because of the observation of the corpse. And then now we have a staggering number of sniper rifles that we need to offload. All right, and then someone, it's not going to be Kenta. Kenta's already pretty bummed out. Valentin just had a lot of fun. So let's have Valentin come and do a quick burn. So what we do when we max out corpses here, we have someone come here. They light a fire. Then they step out. Actually, they step in. We no longer hold the door open. And then we forbid this so no bears enter the room while it's getting burned off. So this is a cheap and easy way to deal with corpses. And actually, one interesting thing is you'll see a lot of like spontaneous combustion happening here. And that's because as the room heats, it's currently 519 degrees Celsius. Flammables have an increased chance. So we'll probably see this cap out around 1500. Oh, maybe 1000 Celsius is the max. Yeah, gets nice and toasty in there. And then it'll burn off and we'll be able to vent it. I do like games that have that type of thing. I particularly am a fan of games like that don't that create systems like that without there being a right answer. I think that's the most delicate balance when you talk about game design and roguelites is the accomplishing what we're describing, right? An interesting game, novel engaging mechanics, and doing it in such a way that there isn't kind of like an optimal strategy. That's one of the things that I think, how do I want to put this? It's one of the things that I think a couple of games I'm playing currently struggle with. There used to be a statue here. I wonder what happened to that. I could probably put a new one there. Oh yeah, I made this uranium grand sculpture. That needs a home too, doesn't it? There we go. I'll put that there. So this is a masterwork uranium grand sculpture. We have 2 tendrils of Dwayne here. Where would we put a giant uranium grand sculpture? Oh, we didn't. I don't even think we read it. So the title was A Polar Bear's Beat. Joke, this is another amazing facet of RimWorld, is it procedurally generates everything, including things like the description of the art on things. So for instance, this piece of art is, on this work is an illustration of a polar bear collapsed in a chair while being tended to by a doctor. A large group of dying finches lay on the ground. The image contrasts devastation with cruelty. This portrayal refers to the polar bear being stricken with the plague on the 6th of April, 5522. So literally every piece of art in the game has a ridiculous artwork description that goes along with it, which I think is just fun. There are a lot of little things like that. A bit waifu, got it. All right, let's see. This is cooled down, so we can go ahead and open this back up so that future corpses will get in there. Oh, Turner did indeed die. Oh, Turner was the boss. Was he actually the pirate boss? It's very interesting, if true. Every faction that we encounter has a crew. So right now, Dan Grilliopoulos is the moral dog of the Club Wolves, which is their leader, and the Devil Outlaws, their ethical dog, which is an even more hilarious name, is Ileana Nose Rush, who we have seen before, I'm pretty sure. A threat cluster. Let's see, what are we working with here? Oh, we could have a persona weapon named Houdini that causes hunger. Centipedes, lancers, pikemen, scythers, 1 defoliator. Oh yeah, that's a tough one, Joke. That's a very interesting. I don't know if we've talked about Darkest Dungeon, since I don't think you've been here for any of my Darkest Dungeon streams, but that was a huge challenge that Darkest Dungeon struggled with. Was the delaying, or kind of like stalling. And what you don't want to do in a game like that is create an incentive structure where playing the game is miserable if you play it optimally, right? I think that is for sure like one of the saddest things that can happen. So I just took White and Valentin and said that they could wander further, and I flagged this group of Muffalo to be hunted. So White and Valentin will work their way through the horde, which will be a nice little bump to our meat supply, which is still pretty good since we killed a bunch of maddened elephants not too long ago. But yeah, I think there's so much art to the creation of games, to be sure. I've talked a bit a couple of times about that. I did a bit of a review of The Last Spell and some of the things that I think are challenging about it. Missensor juggling. So are you referring to my practice of getting the missensors down to 1 hit point and then killing them the next night to kind of like get the timing set up properly on them? Because that I think that Mist sensors as a concept are interesting, but currently are very very unrewarding and very uninteresting in terms of gameplay. I think that mist sensors need a lot of work. There's a lot of facets of the last spell that just don't feel particularly rewarding. One of the things is that the meta progression of the last spell absolutely is designed to gate you from any possibility of success until you've unlocked enough stuff. Okay, this is an emergency. Lolita's having a heart attack, so we need to try to do everything we can to get her taken care of. Who's our best doctor? Morrison. Tony's only an 11. Mule's a 13. Okay, we're gonna have Steroid. Steroid, get on it. Steroid is very very good. And then we're also gonna have Edie come over here and do a pain block. Okay, and then we're going to need a second person to come over here. No Steroid. Oh. Is the heart attack already over? Wow, that was way better than the last heart attack that we dealt with on an animal. I think we saved Lolita's life with our fast action there. Turt Spanish, our singular turtle here, 153 years old, had a much more debilitating heart attack. That one we knocked out pretty quickly. So yeah, so let me think a second for how I would want to handle sensors, because yeah, right now they feel kind of shoehorned in, and the only difficulty spike that feels worse than the mist sensors, which I think can be handled, right? Like obviously I've beat the game plenty on difficulty levels above the mist sensor difficulty level, but the worst difficulty spike is the flat increase in movement of the enemies. Like the game was just never designed for that level of movement. So I think that feels very unrewarding. We're not going to build this. So yeah, I think one thing that could be interesting is make the mist sensors recede if you hit them multiple times. Like maybe give mist sensors 3 levels of emission. Right, so like there's a max radius, a middle radius, and a turned off radius, and anytime you hit them, you toggle them down 1 notch, and each turn they increase by 1 notch. So then you could use AoE abilities to keep them under control, but if you weren't... Oh. Okay, that was a very short social fight. But that way you're spending a bit of your action economy in order to attack the mist sensors, or they're growing and they're limiting your vision. But you have kind of counterplay without having to just spend a bunch of time running around and killing them, which doesn't feel good, and I don't think creates an interesting or furthers the game too terribly much. Let's see. So I think I don't have a shredding order that includes... So let's see. This is for bio-coded weapons. This one is for bio-coded and non-bio-coded melee weapons. Then we have this one, which is for bio-coded and non-bio-coded ranged weapons. And does it include sniper rifles? Yes. Awful through good. Okay, I think we should be processing these sniper rifles. It's just going to be a bit before they get done because we have a lot of slag. We could probably, if we wanted to test that, we could move this weapon smelting up to be with the other weapon smeltings. But yeah, so I like the idea of multi-hitting them so that like you want to have AoE attacks so you can do some damage to the bad guys while also pushing them back. Yeah, but I mean, I like the idea of the mist. I don't love the idea of the mist sensors. Like a lot of the issues I have with the last spell is I feel like you're a bit shoehorned into like a single viable strategy as the margins become thinner and thinner and thinner for winning, and that's always a hard place to be at in roguelites in general. And I think Slay the Spire does an exceptionally good job of it. Okay, so Dead Starts, I have a lot of thoughts about, Joke, because I've been thinking a fair amount about this. I think that you should be, at the beginning of the game, presented with 9 characters and have to select 3 of the 9. And the 9 characters should be randomly generated. And the reason that I say that way is I think that, among other things, it opens up a lot of opportunity for kind of fun, different playthroughs, right? Like, so if you did 9, you have 3 melees, 3 ranged, and 3 casters. And then you could be like, I'm going to do an all melee start. I'm going to do an all caster start. So it would increase the value of, say, the production buildings, right? So I could be like, I'm going on an all range start, and so I'm going to invest. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to whack the microphone there. I'm going to invest in a bower early on, right? Like, and I think that those types of things would make the game feel a lot more rewarding to play through, and also create more interest. Like, you might look at your 9 characters and be like, oh wow, I generally don't like taking a lot of melees, but this particular melee build looks really good because we got some insanely good perks, right? And so then there's a lot more strategy to night 1 and the way that you're setting up your first night. And you know that if you're taking melee, you may struggle and that sort of thing. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that I think I read somewhere, and I think it's in the next patch, that we're going to be seeing improvements to the perk system. And I would love to see them go a little bit the Darkest Dungeon route. And what I mean by that is I would like for everyone to have a positive and negative things. I kind of like the way that they did the perks, where some perks are good and some perks are bad, but a lot of them I think fall flat or aren't particularly interesting in the way that they perturb the gameplay. So seeing more diversity and more interesting perks would be great. And then it also opens people up to be like, okay, I'm going to do a playthrough where I just take the first 3 people that are offered, right? And then that can be an additional challenge that people can take on. But right now, the early game feels too RNG. Like, your first couple nights, especially on higher difficulties, hinge so heavily on getting the right combination of folks. And that's another thing. And this one may be more controversial, but I really feel like the only starting with 1 weapon also really limits the game pretty substantially. Because once you get into the game, it means that you're always leaving action points on the table, which feels bad. Like in the early game, you basically will eventually know that a short bow that is a normal bog standard short bow is not going to be able to one-shot kill a runner, as an example. I don't know if this one is actually true, but a lot of them are. And so you know that certain combinations of certain weapons are not going to be able to do much, right? So like the problem that we have in the early game is the breakpoints don't line up well, to the point where you have to spend, say, 2 actions and you only have 1 weapon. So that might be half of your total effective capacity for dealing damage. And that just doesn't feel good. So to a certain extent, I understand how buying weapons can be like a counterbalance to development, aka like, right, you have to invest in the characters and things like that. But yeah, I mean, I think they could do. So there's that perk, which is the specialist perk that makes all weapon charges have 1 additional. And maybe what it should do, and this is potentially also controversial because I think it's a trash perk right now, is it should give +2. And if you aren't holding a second weapon, so if you have a free hand, you should get +1 on all of your abilities. So the idea would be that when your characters start out, they get a little bit of a bump, but it's basically trash, right? It's like 1 extra attack with a short bow or something like that. And then if you take specialist, you get 2 extra uses of that weapon, or maybe even 3, to be honest. I'm not sure I would take specialist even if yeah, oh, the breakpoints on night 1 suck. They are just miserable. On night 1, you just sometimes get into a situation where you're like, okay, I can't kill things that I need to kill in one hit. And there's nothing you can do, and there's no recourse that I could have had. There's no different way that I could have played that would cause that to turn out differently. Because on night 1, you're just walking in with whatever they've handed you, and you just kind of have to make do. So that's entirely, like, there's no more pure example of a game developer being like, here is the way that I have designed the game. You have had no agency, and you can't do this thing, so it is clearly, straight line. I have designed it to be that way. And that does feel bad.